Meet Me in London. Book by Georgia Toffolo. Chapter Though. There was nothing better, Victoria mused as she sipped her takeaway coffee and felt the late autumn sun gently warm her back, than mooching in Portobello Market on a rare afternoon off. Sure, she loved working in Chelsea, with its neat white terraces, and feeling of grandeur from the myriad high-end houses and guarded foreign embassies. She loved the sense of history from the 300-year-old red-brick Chelsea hospital. Loved the new and the old of chain store shops rubbing shoulders with quirky clothing stores, the sometimes daring offbeat clothes choices. The shock factor and yet the reassuring solidity of it all. Chelsea was her place. Her fit. She felt as if she was destined to have a shop right there. Had almost had one. But now she was back to square one with that plan. Thanks to Peter. No. She wasn't going to ruin this lovely day with memories of plans gone awry. She was simply going to make new ones and put them into action instead. Starting today, by focusing on her designs and growing her vintage-inspired portfolio. And while Victoria loved working and renting in Chelsea, she also adored exploring and shopping in Portobello Market. A more earthy, gritty place with its diverse stores, hippie buzz and exotic smells of cuisines from around the world. To her, Portobello was the mischievous anti-authority younger sister to Chelsea's grown-up older sibling. Walking down the hill from Notting Hill Gate, she could barely control the fizzing in her stomach at the prospect of finding some amazing fabric or cute notions for her designs. At this end of Portobello Road, antique shops lined the street, their mysterious wonders spilling onto the pavements before giving in to the beginnings of the outdoor market with back-to-back fruit and vegetable stalls brightened by flowers and gaudy Christmas decorations. Then, farther along, at the gutsy, grungy Ladbroke Grove end, was the treasure trove of second-hand stalls and bric-a-brac, also known as her kind of heaven. The chatter of tourists and locals, the call of the stall holders and the hum of traffic combined to make an upbeat white noise, interspersed with the tinny blare of Christmas carols. She was in her happy place and the sun was shining. She just wished she had Zoe, Lily and Mali, her oldest and dearest friends, here to share this. Her heart squeezed a little at the thought of them spread out across the world chasing their individual dreams. They rarely had a chance to be geographically close these days. But when they did, they always had such fun shopping together, laughing, getting ready for nights out. That night, her throat tightened. That night had started just like any other. 4 girls getting ready. The conversation was all about the makeup and dresses. Who had the highest heels, who could walk in them? It was about the laughter, the anticipation, about living. Oh, the excitement of a summer ball. A chill peppered her skin. That night had changed everything, who they were, what they wanted from life, who they'd become. Funny how one blindsiding split second could change you forever. Absent-mindedly running a hand across her belly, she pushed those thoughts away and, now desperate for some seriously uplifting retail therapy, quickened her pace to the first shop she was heading for, the fabric store. Popping her now empty reusable cup into her handbag, she pushed the door open. Betsy, the willowy shop owner, looked up from her phone screen and smiled as Victoria walked in. "Hello, love," she growled in a deep voice that Victoria imagined was born from years of chain smoking or whiskey drinking, or both. "Back again so soon? Looking for something in particular?" "Not really, thanks, Betsy. Just browsing. Yes. She came in here so frequently she was on first-name terms with the owner. Victoria's eyes settled greedily on the bolts of fabric stacked in rows and rows, lining the walls. And drooling. Don't blame you. It's my slice of paradise is this place. Betsy ran her palm over some quilting fat quarters as if they were her beloved offspring. Victoria sympathized. Only people who loved fabric, sewing and crafting could understand the allure of a pretty pattern or the soft stroke of well-made silk. Not even Molly, Zoe or Lily understood. But Betsy beamed, knowing she was talking to a kindred spirit. Not got your kids with you this time? Victoria's cheeks flushed. Oh, they're not my kids. They're my students. I'm teaching a fashion design class. I knew you weren't old enough to have teenagers, but, well, you never know these days, do you? They seemed a nice bunch. Polite enough and didn't maul the goods with sticky fingers like some people do. What a refreshing attitude, compared to Paul's careful, warning one. Although, Victoria had schooled them in manners and fabric store etiquette before she'd taken them in there, hoping they wouldn't run amok amongst the shanting silk. In the end they'd done her proud. They are lovely kids. But some of them can't afford to buy fabric, so I'm looking for any cheap samples, offcuts, any cute notions to brighten up some of the recycled clothes they're using. Have a look through these. With a grunt, Betsy pushed a huge cardboard box out from behind the counter into the middle of the room. I'm just having a sort out, making room for a new delivery on Monday. There's lots of out-of-season ribbon, end-of-line and clearance stuff. I can let you have it on the cheap if it's for a good cause. That would be amazing. She looked at the box, overflowing with summery offcuts, Halloween fabrics and Easter-themed ribbons, and calculated a cost of well over £30 for the lot. Not much to some people, but a big enough dent out of her salary, which wasn't much after rent on both her flat and design studio, and once living expenses were taken care of. She wobbled a little but then thought of how much those kids deserved a chance. I'll take it all. Give me a tenner. I'm glad to see it go to a good home. Wow. Thank you so much. That's very generous. You spend enough in here as it is. Betsy waved a hand as if it was nothing, but to Victoria's students it would mean the chance to realize their designs, which in turn would give them the pride of achievement, of seeing their dreams and ideas become reality. More than anything, she wanted them to learn they could dream big. This is gorgeous. Victoria let a swatch of softest pale blue cotton with a wispy white swirl pattern run through her fingers. In her mind's eye she saw her friend Molly wearing a simple halter-neck beach dress made of it as she lounged in the last rays of sun after a day's teaching at her surf school in Hawaii. One day, Victoria promised herself she'd be successful enough to be able to afford to fly out there and have Molly teach her some surf moves. She let the fabric drop as something deliciously sparkly caught her eye. The most exquisite double-weight ivory sateen. The perfect tone for a wedding dress. She imagined it as a strapless bustier bodice embellished with light-catching crystals and the sheerest lace overlay, giving in to a waist-enhancing silhouette with floor-length skirt and train that glided as the bride floated down the aisle. Dramatic. Simple. Sophisticated. Modern yet timeless. It came to her as a fully formed idea. All she needed to do was sketch it to make it real. Oh! She sighed. The sateen was so shimmery and stunning it took her breath away. How much is this? Lovely, isn't it? Betsy's eyes grew almost as hungry as Victoria imagined hers to be. 130 quid a meter. A bit out of my price range right now. Like, totally unaffordable. Victoria put it back quickly. But she snapped a quick photo of the label so she could put it on her vision board at home along with the design. Once she'd done it, something to save up for. Something else. Along with the Hawaii trip to see Mali, paying for time off to go home to Devon to see Lily, and sticking a pin in a map and trying to meet up with globe-trotting Zoe. Vicky, love? Betsy's gravelly voice distracted her from her reverie. Can you mind the shop while I nip upstairs to the loo? I'm the only one here at the moment and running close to desperate. Sure thing. Grab a cuppa while you're there. I'm happy to stay a while. In fact, you're going to have to manhandle me out when it's closing time. She made her way to the counter and found a little antique cigar box housing vintage hair accessories. A clip made from pearls set in a platinum petal shape caught her fancy. That would be perfect for Lily to hold her hair back while she worked in the restaurant. Next, she rummaged through some reduced-price fabric rolls and found some Italian white linen. It was cool to the touch, perfect for a floaty summer dress or. She swallowed at the image that had flitted through her head more than once or twice over the last few hours. A man's shirt. His shirt. The man she'd not stopped thinking about since last night. Which was stupid. So stupid. It wasn't as if they'd had much of a conversation. And who proposed to a stranger like that? And why? He hadn't been drunk. He hadn't looked desperate, far from it. She needed a distraction. For the first time in forever, the creative mind suck wasn't working. She needed her friends. What time was it in? Where was Zoe these days? It was hard to keep up. Mexico somewhere. She checked her world clock app. It was too early for Mali, but 2 out of 3 was better than none. A flutter of genuine pleasure floated through her as she tugged out her digital tablet and pressed the group chat button. Lily answered immediately. Probably because she was in the same time zone. More likely because, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, things hadn't busied up in her restaurant yet. Or were just quietening down after the lunch rush. Her happy but slightly pink-cheeked face filled the screen. Hello, we. How come you're out and about on a Saturday? It's only for a few hours. I'm back at the bar later. It's lovely to see you. How's things? Air. Hello? Zoe's green eyes came into view, then a cheek, her rosebud mouth. This had better be good. It's the middle of the night. Oh. Sorry, I thought it was 9 in the morning your time. Maybe my app's wrong. Zoe blinked, smoothed down her blonde hair and squinted at the screen. 9. Yes. Also known as the middle of the night. Sorry. Forgot you're an owl. Victoria strained to see if there was someone in bed next to Zoe. The pillowcases were crisp white with embroidery on the edges. Expensive. Could Victoria see a shadow? An arm? Or was it just wishful thinking that Zoe would ever allow someone to see past her scars? Past the wheelchair? Lily's eyes narrowed. Where are you, we? It looks dingy. In a fabric shop in Portobello Road Market. It's not dingy, it's heaven. So rolled her eyes. I should have guessed it was going to be either material or the bar. You need to get some fresh air, my girl. You're starting to look like the living dead. Victoria laughed, but frowned. Was she pale? Maybe she should tune down the pale but interesting makeup a little. It was all part of her vintage vibe, but maybe she'd overdone it? I get fresh air. I've just walked up from Notting Hill Gate Tube Station. She eyed Zoe's grin and shook her head. We can't all flit from exotic beach to exotic beach reviewing hotels and resorts and getting paid for it. Tough job, but someone's got to do it, eh? Zoe yawned. Jealous much? Only a little. I actually wouldn't want to do what you do, and you'd hate my job. You don't know one end of a sewing needle from the other. Zoe frowned, pretending to look bemused. There are ends? Yes, and the pointy one is sharp. I love that we are all off doing what makes us happy. Because there would been a time when being happy had seemed a long way off for all of them. They'd all had to fight, in their own way, to grasp some kind of new normal, and she was so proud of how far they'd come. Speaking of sewing, which I know we weren't, but humor me. Zoe, here's some gorgeous hand-beaded rose pink lace. I could make you a lovely dress for a sorry or dinner with the captain, or whatever it is you have to do. That's on a cruise ship. Captain's table. Yes, please. Floor length as always. Perfect. Anyone heard from Mali recently? She's not on this chat, is she? I can only see green dots on my screen for Lily and we. And, Lily, are you outside somewhere? Lily laughed. No. I'm in my restaurant. We've been experimenting with the layout. Currently we are trying a living wall. Victoria squinted to look more closely. What on earth is that? It's a wall of herbs behind the counter. Only, I'm not quite sure about the irrigation. Irrigation? Inside? This was all just a bit too confusing for Victoria's brain. The watering. Okay, that's it. I'm moving into the kitchen. There was a blur of movement and then Lily reappeared, as gorgeous as ever with two chopsticks spinning her dark hair up in a messy topknot, her eyes shining. That's better. Mali is fine. It's the real middle of the night in Hawaii right now, but we spoke yesterday after I'd closed up the restaurant. The surf school is going well. She seems happy out there. So, what's happening in Chelsea these days? Zoe stifled a yawn. Proposals. Victoria leaned against a high stool behind the shop counter and mentally batted away the image of that gorgeous body gift wrapped in white linen, although she couldn't hide the smile. Oh, the big gossip is that there's a new department store opening at the end of my road. All the locals keep coming into the bar to complain that it's going to take their business away. It's all doom and gloom, which we don't need right before Christmas. Maybe it'll be a destination store, bringing new customers to the area and everyone will win? Lily, with her business head on, always saw the positive in everything. That would be great. Apparently, the owner's a real jerk and winding everyone up the wrong way. There's been problems with rubbish clearance, or rather, lack of. That end of the street has looked like a bomb site for months. And any cars parked anywhere near their site entrance are clamped by some private firm that charges extortionate rates to release any vehicles. People have seen the owner popping out, looking at car number plates and then talking on the phone. 5 minutes later, the clamper arrives. Anyone wanting information receives a load of abuse. Sounds like a nice guy. Not. Well, it was Peter who was complaining, so maybe he was economical with the truth. Or, being Peter, he may just have rubbed the owner up the wrong way. Victoria thought for a moment and grimaced. Two alpha holes as neighbors. Great. Zoe sat up. You still see Peter? Why? Victoria shrugged, trying to stay upbeat. I don't have much choice. His shop is across the road from the bar. You were supposed to have space in that shop to sell your amazing designs. Didn't he promise you that? That you'd go into partnership with him? Then you caught him making out with the retail assistant. Sleazebag. You should sue him for breach of contract. It was only a verbal one. And Lily should sue Alistair too. Victoria glanced quickly at Lily, knowing this conversation was veering a little too intimately for Lily's liking. Her ex had run off with some of her cash and she'd never recovered it. Lily shook her head, embarrassment infusing her cheeks. No way. I can't afford to go to a small claims court. Besides, I feel like such a stupid fool. I don't want anyone else to know about it. Can you imagine how much gossipy Mrs. Whittaker in the village would love to hear all about it? No. No way. Al's gone, as is the money. They're both sleazebags. Seems to be the general opinion. Victoria nodded, grateful for her friend's unwavering support. Yes. Funny, though, the bit that broke my heart wasn't catching him with another woman so much as seeing all those plans we'd made go down the drain. I finally thought I'd have retail space for my clothes in Chelsea. Every fashion designer's dream. Oh, did I tell you he's now engaged to the girl he cheated on me with? No. That was quick. Zoe seemed wide awake now. Apparently, so he tells me, because he seems to think that I care. When you find the one, you just know. First Peter and then Sarah going on about the one. So many people thinking the one was the be-all and end-all of their lives, Victoria thought, with a little pang in her chest. As if being single was such a problem. She liked it. She liked the freedom, liked not having to compromise or worry about what the other person was thinking. She liked making decisions for herself, doing what made her happy. Even if sometimes she did feel a bit lonely. After 6 months together, you deserved so much more, Lily said. It took him that long to find out I wasn't the one. Go figure. Or maybe it was the fact that when I finally told him all about our accident, and I mean all and what that means for me, he couldn't run away fast enough. Stupid thing was, she'd come to terms with not being able to have kids. It had taken some time, but she'd processed it. She'd thought she'd found someone who she could share a life with because he didn't want babies, until he did. And everywhere she'd turned she'd seen babies and bumps, and she was left trying to process it all over again. The reminder of what she couldn't have hurt her hard. Och, honey. Zoe's voice softened. These women were the only ones who truly understood. They'd been there. They'd shared all of this, lived through it together. Shallow doesn't come close. You should be enough. You are enough. She was, and she knew it. Victoria didn't measure her worth by whether or not she could have kids. Shame that someone else did. The thing is, I don't blame him for feeling blindsided. If I had an idea of a future all mapped out and I met someone who didn't fit that picture, I'm not sure I'd stay with them. Better being occasionally lonely than risking another heartbreak, or let down, or being made to feel less. He could have been kinder. He shouldn't have cheated on you. Zoe was always willing to go into bat for Victoria even after everything. I'm good. It's fine. Men are off the menu. Amen to that. Zoe nodded. Absolutely. Lily picked up a wine glass and started polishing it. But what a low thing for Peter to do. If he doesn't like you for you and only for what you can give him, he's not the right person for you. Not being able to have children shouldn't matter a damn. I do kind of feel like I'm an adoptive mom to all the kids I teach, though. My life is rewarding, it's full. I have fun. It's fine. The more she said it, the more she'd believe it. But having a relationship end in such a spectacularly gross way as finding her boyfriend in flagrant with someone he'd really only just met, on Victoria's cutting table in her studio, had bitten into her ego a little. It felt as if he'd planned it somehow, just to prove she wasn't enough. Inadequate. Defective. Afterwards, he'd said Victoria had been the one in their relationship who hadn't been truthful and that she'd led him on and made him believe they had a future together, and then she'd snatched it away when she'd confided her truths. So, she couldn't have kids. Not everyone could. She wasn't the only person in the whole universe who couldn't. Although, he'd made her feel like some kind of defunct freak. She dug deep to find more positives. And I have to say, the prospect of a new store stealing their customers has been driving all the shopkeepers to drink, so business has been booming. I haven't had time to think about Peter and any of that. I don't think we've ever been so busy. Well, that and the fact that it's Christmas soon, so we are getting a lot of office parties too. Her mind traveled back to last night. Proposal guy hadn't been with an office Christmas party. Maybe he'd been stood up. Maybe he'd just broken up with someone. Maybe. Why did she care? He was only going to be like all the rest, in the end. Men are off the menu. But window shopping wasn't. Lily's mouth twitched. Is flirting off the menu? Because God knows, I miss that. Oh? Anyone in particular? Victoria asked, grateful the attention had swung from her. Not yet, Lily said. In a town where I know every single thing about every single man and their mothers? Not likely. So nodded, eyes wide. Flirting is okay. Fine, in fact. Yes. Flirt away. What about sex? Lily asked as her cheeks pinked up again, and Victoria wanted to inquire as to why she was asking that specific question. Did Lily have something to share? Her friend smiled secretively. Just future-proofing. Victoria laughed. At least one of them was believing in a sexy future. That was good. I reckon sex is okay too. But anything emotional or deep, not so much. Avoid hurt at all cost. Live for the moment, Because we don't know how many moments we have left. Hey, we have many, many, many moments left. Zoe's face came into full focus, along with the specter of her touch and go past. They all knew that life could be literally flipped in a second. We are going to keep on doing amazing things. Just at that moment, the internal door creaked open and Betsy sauntered back in. Righty then, Vicky, what have I missed? Victoria jumped up, blew a kiss to her friends. Okay, squad, got to go. I have serious shopping to do. Wish me luck. Luck. Don't forget the lost hours, they called together as she flicked her tablet off. The lost hours. Their code for call me whenever you need me. Good or bad. Emergency, excitement or exhilaration. A code born of an ill-advised trip to Ibiza before the accident, where they'd lost Zoe in a foam party for 3 hours. Ever since then they'd used it to mean, we are here for you. She just wished they were all here, and fit and healthy and not scarred from an accident she'd always feel guilty about. She paid Betsy for the treasure trove of goodies in the cardboard box, reluctantly leaving the double-weight sateen for another day, another life where she was rich and successful and deeply in love with a faithful man who loved her completely. A woman could dream. Huh. Maybe lugging a huge, heavy box across the market and adding to the contents, just a little, as she passed interesting stalls with more sparkly things that seemed to call her name begging to be bought, down the underground steps, onto the packed tube train, then juggling it back up to fading daylight on an escalator in the middle of the crush of Saturday shoppers wasn't such a good idea. As she reached Sloane Square Station's exit, her fingers were going numb and her left bicep was starting to cramp. Not far. Not far. All she had to do was make it to the bar, up the steps to her flat, and then she'd be able to stretch those aching muscles. She slowed as she turned the corner onto her street and came up alongside the huge building to her left, wrapped in white plastic, that had been the bane of the locals' lives for the last few months. A huge sign advertised Russell Co. Grand opening December 8th. With rubble, construction debris and overflowing bins littering the pavement, and torn white plastic flapping in the gentle breeze revealing dirty windows, the new department store didn't look close to being ready for then, and secretly she hoped the grand opening might be delayed just a little longer, until the new year perhaps, so her neighbors could have decent pre-Christmas sales. Okay, maybe not Peter. But she couldn't let her bitterness over him taint her friendship with the other shop owners. She tried lifting the box higher in her arms to relieve the weight from her wrists, but it was so big it almost obscured her view. She raised her head and stuck out her chin to peer over the top, but out of nowhere something big and hard whapped her in her side, forcing all breath from her lungs. The box in her arms lurched hard right, tipping her with it, and suddenly her legs were whirling out of control and she was falling, the pavement coming up to meet her far too quickly. Her breath caught tight in her lungs as she fell. No!